Why is it you only ever take me to the boring parts? The tutor slowed his walk to consider the question. Boring parts of any big plane. We always go to the boring parts where there's almost no magic at all, said the pupil. Look around this place. He waved his hand towards their surroundings, a large open field, a tan sky, and a red sun blaring down on them. Barely a trace of magic anywhere to be found. The tutor stopped his walk and turned back to the pupil. He pointed to their origin, a pale tower that, to a wizard, glowed with magic visible even from this distance. What can you possibly mean? My good friend Radar just showed you miracles that you'll be trying to emulate for a century. There was more magic in his front antechamber than you'll be able to grasp anytime soon. The pupil rolled his eyes. No, not in the tower itself, but all around it. This whole region has barely a scant trace of magic. Why, outside of that tower, I'd have little hope of pulling together enough magic to create us a lunch. Why? Why does he build his tower in the most boring part of this plane of existence? Why not somewhere that magic is actually abundant? The tutor smiled. Ah, he doesn't understand it yet. Tell me about a place that wasn't boring. Oh, easy. 3 plane transits ago, Epsis. And we walked the city of Katar. Magic oozed out of everything there. There was magic in the bugs, in the rain, in the dirt under our feet. Yes. And how big was Epsis? The whole plane, that is, not just the island. Small. Not tiny, to be sure, but we could probably walk across it in 2 or 3 weeks. A day if we flew. Right. Now, how big is this plane? Enormous. We saw it from far above, and it must have been 2 or 3 million paces wide. So big, it curved itself. Yet we chose, of all this plane, to go here, where there's scant magic at all. The pupil stared at the tutor in mock challenge. And yet, where on this plane would you expect to find more magic than this boring field? Replied the tutor. A city. Many swamps we've visited have been rich. Surely, there's somewhere on this plane with a stronger magical environment than this place. There isn't. The tutor smiled back. Do you mean to say this entire plane is just as boring as this place? Oh no. Most of it has even less magic. This lovely field is one of the few places with enough magic that Radar can open a doorway to pull magic in from elsewhere. Most of the rest is just cold and empty of magic. The pupil shuddered at the idea. What an awful plane this is then. He paused, thinking. Wait, hold on. But every big plane we go to is like this. We always come to a big plane, arrive somewhere, and the place feels absolutely devoid. Are you saying they're all like this? The big ones lack magic? The tutor grinned. He loved it when the pupil figured these things out on his own. It's actually worse than that. The bigger the plane, the less total magic in the plane. If there's more magic, there's less space. And then, the big planes have to spread that magic around an even bigger area. It's a strange relationship. That's why we usually find peasants growing food in these sorts of places. And wizards conjuring their cup of tea from nothing in smaller planes. He began walking again towards the cliffs to the north. The path was not well maintained. But it was clear and the ground was solid. The pupil followed, silently thinking. After a time, as they neared the cliffs, the pupil finally asked the question that the tutor knew would come. How far can you take this rule? What if a plane were created with no magic in it at all? Why would it be infinitely large? The tutor had been preparing for the question and quietly preparing the spells he would need. Today would be a long lesson, but one that all wizards must go through. You can't create a plane with no magic at all. That's just not possible. But someone, so very, very long ago decided to see just how little they could get away with. The results, well, I'll show you, but you're not going to like it. Worry crept into the pupil's expression as the tutor carefully created the portal. You've stored sufficient magic, I hope. Because you won't find any in the desert we're going to. It is a magical void. If anything should happen to me, you'll need to have saved enough to open your own portal back home. Oh yes, there will be danger there. He finished casting his portal and grinned at the pupil. We're going to a place called Earth. Look at the creatures. Humans. That's a name in one of their languages. There's hundreds or thousands of other languages and no exaggeration, more than 7 billion of their race here. In the near distance, just beyond the forest, a family was eating together, just outside of what must be their home. They laughed and spoke in their strange language. There was no trace of magic on any of them. The thought staggered the pupil. 7 billion of these individuals, all stuffed into one plane. But then, how big is the plane if it can fit all of these people in it? Are these people, he pointed at the family, kings, to have such space to just themselves? He motioned at the large yard, easily room to fit 100 or more of such creatures, if they stood together closely. The tutor nodded, expecting the question. Like the pupil, he was invisible to all around them, thanks to some simple runes he had brought. He tossed another such rune to the pupil, one to release them from the rules of gravity. Let's go up, and I'll show you. As they rose into the sky, a curious thing happened. The horizon began to curve. Not like the gentle, simple curve of the last plane they had visited, but a strong, clear curve, far in the distance. They rose faster and faster, higher and higher, until the strange truth became clear. It's a sphere. The pupil's expression showed both amazement and amusement. Why, that's wonderful. You could walk in any direction and find yourself back where you started. The tutor smiled back, nodding. But there's more. Look up. He motioned to the second sphere hanging in the heavens above them. Below us, the earth. And above us, the moon. To such places. How wonderful. How do they travel between them though, with so little magic available? The tutor laughed. Oh, they don't. They can't. Well, for a little while they did, but with no aid of magic, the costs were far too high. Besides, there's no air on the moon, and they must breathe it to stay alive. Crestfallen, the pupil sighed. Still, the earth is an incredible plane. Why, you could live a very long life and never see but a scant trace of it. I'm amazed at whoever created it. The tutor gave his terrible smile that the pupil had long ago learned meant he'd missed something. He looked as carefully as he could at the earth but found nothing about it amiss. Finally, he glanced up towards the moon, but his eyes caught something else first. A twinkling light. No, wait, many twinkling lights. All throughout the sky, small twinkling lights. Oh. What are those? Many things. Other planets, a word to describe the Earth and those things like it that orbit the sun. Other suns, both far away and very far away. Groupings of billions or trillions of such suns called galaxies that are even further away. And there are billions of those galaxies in turn. It took the pupil a moment to process what he was being told. Many things like Earth around a sun. Many suns grouped by the trillions. Many billions of those groupings. The size became too much to hold in his head. Show me these other suns. The tutor shook his head. They're too far away. With telescopes, the humans have learned much about them. But even with all our magic, it would take quite a lot to go visit them. And once we got there, we'd have no magic left to get back home. No, friend. Earth is our only little anchor in this place, with the only scant sniff of magic we know of here. But those other planets, surely some of them could be vibrant places just like Earth. Where there's life, there's magic. We just need to find them. You have it backwards, I'm afraid. Where there's magic, there's life. Life starts from magic. And as far as any wizard that studied this plane can tell, there's only one place with life. Only one place with magic. Earth. The pupil thought for a while. Hold on, telescopes. Like, for spotting things in the distance. Yes. Humans took them to an extreme. They've built telescopes to see things so far away, you can't imagine the distance or size. Quite frankly, they know more about telescopes and what they see in them than we ever will. But you said they had no magic. How could they build a powerful telescope with no magic at all? I saw the telescoperies on Yellen. Skilled wizards were the key to the entire place. Ah. Yes. The tutor was glad to see his dear pupil had reached the next step so quickly. And so we need to talk about humans. Come. We'll have to do some jumping rather than just flying, but as long as you stay close to me, you'll be pulled along without casting. They stood near the top of a dormant volcano on a large island surrounded by endless sea. The dark night showed many suns in the sky above. Below them stood buildings, many in the shape of a sphere. One building turned slowly and a gateway near the top opened. Telescopes. You're telling me those are telescopes? Indeed. And they use them to look at suns in the sky. On Yellen, the telescopery had only one simple rule. Do not look at the sun with the telescope. The tutor laughed. No, they don't look at the nearby sun, at least, not very often. They look at the distant suns and galaxies and learn what they are made of. They study the light in fine detail and deduce the composition of the suns by what colors of light are strong and weak. But why? To learn. To understand. To understand their plane of existence better. They call it the universe, meaning all things. An inaccurate word to us, but not to them. This is all they'll ever know. But it's so vast, they'll still never know it all. So they study it. The pupil was quiet for a time. He paced, thinking. How does one even conceive to build such a telescope with no magic? How can one keep such an idea, such a large idea, inside their head? And how can it move to point at the suns, with no magic to power it? They have powers that aren't magic. Power that aren't magic. Nothing is more powerful than magic, you've told me that 1,000 times over. Still true. But there is no magic here. So instead, humans have electricity. Like static or lightning. They found ways to bottle it up, yes, without any magic involved. And use it to do all sorts of incredible things, like move that telescope. They have other ways too. Burning oils to make heat and explosions is quite popular. The tutor himself knew he was teaching at the limit of his knowledge, but maybe the pupil would teach him something in return today. Such bright pupils sometimes do. The pupil began to ask another question, but stopped as a light caught his eye. Like a star in the sky, but much closer and moving from the west towards them. You said they were faraway suns, that one looks much closer. Let's fly again and go have a look then, shall we? Were they not invisible, a passenger on the airplane might have been taken aback to see two wizards calmly sitting on the wing, examining the engine. Were they not also using strong runes to block the wind, they wouldn't have been sitting on the wing very long. You're telling me this object is filled with people flying through the sky, and yet it's got no magic inside it at all? Yes, exactly. Well, now I'm starting to not believe you. You're talking impossibilities. Flight and magic are hand in hand. You can't have flight without magic. The tutor laughed. Well, you can sense magic in any small quantity from 20 paces away. Go find it. Search this vehicle inside and out as you like. And tell me when you turn up some magic. I'll be sitting here enjoying the view below. The pupil spent longer than the tutor would have expected on his search. After a while, he sat down exhausted beside the tutor. It's not in these engines. It's not in the wings. The body is just a piece of metal. The two women in the front, ostensibly in control of this horrendous thing, show no sign of wizarding abilities. The nearest I found was an abysmally small piece of magic in a small non-human animal, sitting in a seat near the front. Oh, yes, I did notice them as well. Dogs, lovely creatures. No true magic to them, and not quite sentient like the humans are. But they seem to sniff out and pick up the faint traces of magic on the earth. They don't even know what to do with it, but it makes them happy. If I didn't have you to take care of, I might well consider bringing one with me. The pupil smiled at what he hoped was a jest. But then, how do they do it? What lets this piece of metal fly? The tutor shook his head, laughed and said, "They're just very clever, aren't they?" His voice took a somber tone. "Often, to their own doom, I'm afraid. These creatures are actually quite dangerous." Dangerous? They have no magic, no fangs, no claws, and apart from building quite clever devices, I don't see how they could cause much harm. And so, we need to go to the final lesson of this place. Come, hold my hand, and I'll jump us. The tutor passed the pupil a ring. Too large to fit on a finger, too small to be a bracelet, covered in runes, and pulsing with colorful magic. This was something special. This is a look back. They don't work in most places. Magic interferes with magic, of course. But here, in this place, you can look back very far with ease. Hold it to your eye. The further left you turn it, the further back it looks. Turn to the right to move forward in time. The pupil was incredulous. Time machines were surely forbidden, even if they could work. He held the look back to his eye and tapped it left a fraction, then stopped. He turned toward the tutor and watched through the look back. He could not hear through it, it is a look back after all. But he could clearly see his master's lips moving, explaining. Magic interferes with magic, of course. But here, in this place. The pupil pulled back from the device with a gasp, eliciting a laugh from the tutor. Do me a favor, and don't lose it. You have no idea how long it took to make, or how difficult all the pieces were to find. The tutor pointed the pupil towards a large city below, where they floated. I want you to zoom back decades in the past. Look for a single, very large change in that city. The pupil found controlling the look back easy to learn. The further left he moved, the faster it moved time backwards. When he tapped it to the right, it stopped, and time played out as normal. The same worked for moving forwards, but stopped at the present. Sadly, it was not a look ahead. Some decades before, a clear change happened. He moved closer and closer, before finally seeing a bright flash marking the change. Closer, closer, until finally he watched it happen at normal speed. A small object fell from another of those flying machines, its fall slowed by a large bag of some sort of cloth. Then suddenly, everything everywhere was light, and fire, and destruction. The look back protected his eyes from blindness, fortunately. But the flash still left the pupil dazed. What was that? Keep looking, ordered the tutor. He looked back to see the city gone, missing, replaced by fire and destruction. A hellscape plain before him. People on the edges dying in agony. Yet slightly more fortunate than the people in the center, who were simply gone from existence. Thousands, tens of thousands, must have been killed in that single terrible flash. In a much more sober tone, the pupil asked again. What was that? That was a single explosion that killed 100,000 humans. Many instantly, many more slowly over the following days. The pupil looked ill. What dark magic could even do such a thing? I can't even fathom a spell that would allow it. The very fabric of the cosmos should have prevented such a spell from existing. And that is indeed the problem. There is no magic here. Magic follows rules, ethics, laws of its own devising. Magic, most magic at least, won't let you do such things. The humans have no magic, so what they do is not bound by those rules. They can wipe out a city in an instant with their cleverness, and the tools they use to do this won't stop them. The tutor was nearly yelling, his anger and disgust palpable. I said there was danger. This is the danger. These creatures who are unbound by ethical laws. These lessons are never easy, and the pupil was digesting it slowly. Surely, we could step in. We could bring them magic. We could show them the rest of the planes and teach them that ethics are laws. We could infuse this world with magic and enforce it ourselves. There are very few rules that bind us wizards, but not long after humans came about on this plane, we came up with a very simple rule. Humans may never have magic. They can never see it, they can never touch it, they can never know it. But why? Why would we not stop them, given what you've just shown me? Don't you see? All life stems from magic, even here in its nearly invisible traces. Humans are born innately knowing that magic should exist, yet it doesn't. They can't seem to find it, search as they might. For nearly anyone else, realizing the magic you seek isn't real would be a letdown, but it would be accepted. But not humans. Oh no, they won't just sit idly by and let their loss be a loss. You see, when the humans realized magic wasn't real, they went and made their own. From lightning and fire and steel. From cleverness and intellect, stubbornness and willpower. They made their own magic, and they never once thought to add morality as an ingredient in it. If they can weave magic from nothing, and then use that magic to destroy cities of their own kind, can you imagine what they might do if they were given actual magic? To 7 billion of these creatures. No, my friend, these beings will never know real magic. Every wizard of every plane will fight to make sure that never happens. The pupil nodded, understanding. The tutor sighed. And so ends our lesson. Now, let's get out of this terrible place. Where to next? Have you ever heard of Tizerazel? No. Oh, excellent. There are these talking eels, the Tezerazo, that are obsessed about this wonderful tea, which they grow underwater. Here, I'll open the portal. You'll love it there. Even the tea is teeming with magic. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.